Hey everyone, my name is Ryan. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and I produce electronic music under the name of Risey. Today I wanted to just show you my submission for the Loopop Superbooth competition. It's a techno track that I made that I've called Lunar Surface. So I'm just going to take you through some of the elements and how I put them together and which samples that I used. So given that it is a techno track, let's start with the kick. So the kick actually comes from the Rapid Elephant Portal Drum module, and it's 3 separate samples which I saturated using Decapitator and compressed those together. There's also a texture track that's playing under there which comes from a kick pattern processed through the Godfather. And then we also have a rumble that sits underneath all of that, ties the whole thing together. So that rumble was created by sending those 2 kick channels through into one channel and then processing those with a technique that I picked up from the Underdog YouTube channel. So I'd recommend checking out that tutorial. Then also have the hat sitting on top of that. One channel here is coming from the 6mod6, and that 16th pattern is coming from the Perkins HD01. So in the breakdown here in the track, we can hear a lot of pads, more melodic elements coming into this track. So the pads that I've used here, a lot of them do come from the Hydrosynth. So I know this piano pad, string like, and deep pad, that's just the names that I've given them there. They all come from the Hydrosynth. We do also have a couple of other supporting pad sounds which come from the Nymphes, which is like the big whoosh sound in here, as well as some sounds that come from the Waldorf M. So lots of reverb being applied to these sounds. Always sounds really good. Some really excellent pad sounds in here. Just want to point out this piano pad that has an arpeggiator running over the top to give it that sound. So let's talk about the bass. We're about to hit the drop pretty soon. So the bass elements, we have this longer bass which you can hear in this moment that comes from the Waldorf M. And then our more groovy bass line, percussive bass line, that is actually a sound that comes from the Buchla and Tip Top 258. And the sequence is created using a Euclidean sequencer patch running in the grid. That patch actually comes from Polarity, so I'd recommend checking out his YouTube channel. It's a really excellent patch and very easy to use. So now that we've hit the drop, there's some more sounds in here that come from, for example, the Nymphes, and this sound here which comes from the Waldorf, so I've just kind of scattered those in to keep the interest up. There's also another sound which we have in here called Beltone. That Beltone actually comes from the Udo Super 6. Really great sound, this one. Big fan. Not too much processing, just some delay. And then there's also some other bass stabs in there which also come from the Nymphes. So you'll start to hear some leads and arpeggiators coming through. So this first arp that comes in, that is a sound that comes from the Nymphes, just a simple 16th note. We can see down here that I've actually got, we have a 5th in that same octave, and then down an octave that's kind of giving that melodic variation. And then a little bit later we will hear this sound here, which I've called Sad Machine. That comes from the Dope 126. And running this sound through some distortion, I've kind of got a little bit of a guitar-like sound. And then the final arpeggiator comes from the Waldorf M. That one had a little more processing applied on top of it to kind of give more of a techno texture, another 16th arpeggiator, but we also have on top of that some bit crushing and a flanger before some reverb. So you can hear that Sad Machine sound in there, kind of has that guitar like texture that comes from the distortion. And then we'll hear that final arpeggiator come in which I really like the way that sounds. And that's going to basically play us through the rest of the track. Really enjoyed putting this whole thing together. Really enjoyed the arrangement. I will take you through some of the way that I actually set up the mix. I did the mix in a separate session. I will make this project available to download. There's not too many third-party plugins, so if you do own Bitwig, you should be able to open this up. But I also will take you through the separate mix session to just show you how I kind of put everything together. So the way that I approached the mixing for this project, the way that I approach all of my mixing really is to commit everything to audio, first of all. And then as I was setting up my channel routing, I grouped all of our low-end drums, which is these drums here, along with our bass line into a low-end bus. So all of those elements which need to fill out the low end of the track, they're all able to be processed together. So for the low-end drums, lots of saturation, very something I really like for low end, and then also the Oxford inflator, which is not much of a secret weapon these days, but definitely something that I like to use to get things to sound nice and loud. So that was just processing the low end drums, and then that's routed into our low end bus. Same thing, so some more compression being applied over the whole low end of the track, and then also just Gullfoss in here, just to try and give a little more clarity to some of those sounds. I should point out I also use track spacer in a number of sounds in this mix, just to get everything to sit together, because I wanted that low end to be so cohesive. So track spacer just allows me to do a little more creative side chaining. I would say something that's a little more transparent, but I just use that to make everything sit nicely together. So track spacer was used in a number of locations. I also used the Waves plugin R-Bass on our long bass notes, just to kind of try and give it a little more weight and some more harmonics. Apart from the low end, everything else in the mix was pretty straightforward, really. I just wanted to make sure that everything sounded nice together, plenty of side chaining just to give that really great pumping sound, and I used a couple of send and return channels in the end. So just some reverb and some delay, which just fills out a lot of the ambient of the track and really helps us kind of decorate everything. Once I completed the mix, I obviously bounced that to audio and dropped it into another project, which is where I just ran some basic mastering over the top. The mastering was completed using some compression from the Alicia Alpha compressor in mid-side mode, and then also Ozone, a couple of tools out of Ozone running in mid-side mode, just so I could really focus on getting the middle and the low end of this track to sound great, and not getting in the way of the side and stereo information. So that's it for my run through of this track. If you do have any questions, feel free to message me through YouTube. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Like I said, I will be uploading the project, and you can also just check out the track on its own without any talking if you just want to take a listen to it. I have it available both here on YouTube as well as over on SoundCloud if you would like to check it out. Thanks again to Loopop for the opportunity for this competition. I think it's really excellent. I enjoyed my time with these samples. Looking forward to checking out some of the other submissions. Thank you.